The 1934 World Cup in Italy is remembered for many things, most of them not positive. But amidst the controversy, there was one positive note. It marked the first time an African nation competed on football's world stage. Egypt had qualified for the notorious tournament held in fascist Italy in style, beating the British Mandate of Palestine 11-2 over 2 legs. In what seems to be a rite of passage for newly debuting teams at early World Cups, they were drawn against the mighty Hungary in the first round. With the tournament being a straight knockout competition, it was very unforgiving, as Asia's debutants would also find out 4 years later. Still, the first round clash between Egypt and Hungary was a surprisingly competitive game. The crowd was gripped by the action as the plucky Egyptians fought back from 2-0 down to go in level at half-time. Though in the end it finished 4-2 to Hungary, Egypt, Africa and the Arab world had announced its arrival on football's biggest stage. Here are the stories of those pioneering Egyptian players who carried African hopes at their first World Cup. Goalkeeper: Mustafa Mansour. At 19, Mustafa Mansour was one of the youngest players in the Egypt squad, but he was also their number one keeper. He'd actually only started playing in goal because his school team was short of a goalie one day, but that happy accident became the start of a remarkable career. His memories of his World Cup debut are somewhat sour. He was battered black and blue, and for Hungary's fourth he was barged straight into his own net whilst catching the ball. The goal was deemed to stand, and Mansour, broken nose and all, couldn't believe it. Even so, the brave teenage goalkeeper won the hearts of the watching crowd. After the World Cup, at his coach's recommendation, Mansour moved to Scotland to study, and ended up playing for renowned amateur side Queen's Park, becoming the first African goalkeeper to appear in the Scottish leagues. He endeared himself to the Spiders' supporters, who nicknamed him Tuffy. He later returned to Egypt and had a long and quite influential career. He became a referee, managed Cairo giants Al-Ahly, and served as Secretary-General of the CAF. Fullback: Hamidu. Ibrahim Abdel Hamidu Salih, or Hamidu for short, played at fullback, and he was a key part of the starting lineup in Naples that day. Fondly nicknamed Charlie, after his supposed resemblance to Charlie Chaplin, Hamidu's club career had already been impressive. He'd won the Egypt Cup with Ittihad Alexandria and Al Olympi, and would later win it again with Al Ahly. Despite having a trophy-laden career, he left the game after hanging up his boots. He worked as a telephone operator in later life, and according to the most reliable reports, he died in 2003 at the grand old age of 96. Fullback: Ali El-Kaf. The second fullback in the 2-3-5 formation that Egypt played at the World Cup was Ali Mohammed El-Kaf. At 27, he was one of the older members of the squad. His career at club level was strong and successful. He played for Tersana and then Zamalek in Cairo, and he won major domestic honours for both clubs. Along with many others in the squad, he also represented Egypt again at the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. While still at Zamalek, he showed a knack for scouting too, helping to discover Yahya Imam, who would later go on to be a legendary goalkeeper for the club. Right half: Hassan Ahmed El-Far. One of the more understated figures in this Egypt side, El-Far was selected in the first 11 at right half for African football's World Cup debut. He was invariably described as either a fullback, halfback, or just more generically as a midfielder throughout his career. Part of a sporting family, his little brother also represented Egypt at the Olympics in 1952. At club level, he stayed loyal to Zamalek in Egypt's capital, and became one of the great figures in the club's early history. He won 7 Cairo League titles and 6 Egypt Cups, and also won the King Fahd Cup twice in a decorated domestic career. After retiring in 1947, El-Far spent years coaching the Zamalek youth team, where he helped to discover and coach Hassan Shahata, who later became one of Egypt's greatest players. Centre-half: Ismail Rafaat. The man running the engine room for Egypt at centre-half was Ismail Rafaat. He played at home for many Egyptian clubs, playing for Zamalek at the time of the World Cup. His impressive performance in defeat caught the eye of European scouts, and he moved to France, becoming the first Egyptian footballer to play professionally there. He even won the French league title with FC Sochaux in 1938, which made him one of the first Egyptians to succeed at the very highest level outside his own country. He lived a long life, passing away in 2004 at the age of 92. Left half: Hassan Raghab. At 30, Hassan Raghab was the veteran of this Egypt team, and his experience landed him a spot in the starting lineup in Naples. He'd already been a key part of the qualification campaign, Not primarily a left half, he found himself playing there opposite one of Hungary's main danger men, Imre Marcos, due to his experience. Raghab was also part of an earlier Olympic squad in 1932 in a long international career where he was allegedly known for singing to motivate the team, apparently having a fine set of pipes on him. For his club, Union Recreation Hitad, he was a one-club man, but allegedly courted controversy when he was illegally approached to sign for Zamalek, leading to a suspension. After football, there isn't a lot of detail about his life that I could find out. Outside forward, Mohammed Latif. In contrast, somebody who has a very well-documented life after football was winger Mohammed Latif. He was one of the key figures in Egypt's qualification campaign. He scored 3 goals across the 2 qualifiers against Palestine. He then started in the World Cup match against Hungary, played as an outside forward, and helped Egypt to recover from 2-0 down. At club level, Latif also joined Mustafa Mansour in Scotland. He signed for Rangers, mainly playing as an amateur in their reserves, but he did make a competitive appearance for them in 1935, becoming officially the first Egyptian player to represent the club. As interesting as his football career was, it was his voice that would leave an enduring legacy. He was a pioneer of football commentary on Egyptian television, and became such a well-known voice that he was nicknamed the Sheikh of commentators, the John Motson of Egyptian football. Inside forward, Abdelrahman Fawzy. Egypt's undisputed hero of the hour at the World Cup was forward Abdelrahman Fawzy. The man with the golden leg scored twice in the match against Hungary in the space of 10 minutes as Egypt came back from 2-0 down to shock the world. That made him the first African and Arab player to score in a World Cup match, and he'd be the last for 36 years. Even more remarkably, he put Egypt ahead, but astonishingly he was judged to be offside despite running onto the ball from inside his own half. The players and the crowd were very audibly unhappy, but the decision stood. Fawzy continued to be influential in football. He became one of Zamalek's most important figures, winning cups and league titles as player and manager. He'd also later manage both Egypt and the Saudi Arabia national teams in a storied career. On his death in 1988, Zamalek would rename their stadium in his honour. Centre forward, Mahmoud Mokhtar. Mahmoud Mokhtar Rafaat, or El-Tetsh as he was more fondly known, was the captain of the team in Italy, and one of the great figures of early Egyptian football. He was the driving force in qualification, scoring 5 of the 11 goals in the 2 matches against Palestine. By 1934 he was a seasoned veteran, having captained Egypt at the Olympics as a student, aged just 17. The Egyptian Prime Minister himself intervened to allow him to play at the 1924 Olympic Games after his father objected because of his ongoing law exams. The Mo Salah of his day, El-Tetsh, or the Acrobat loosely translated, is widely regarded as one of the finest African players of all time. Not to be confused with a player of the same name who played for several English clubs in the early 1920s, El-Tetsh spent his entire senior career at Al-Ahly, becoming captain as a teenager, and represented Egypt at 3 Olympic Games. He scored 4 goals in the 1928 edition as Egypt finished 4th. After football, he took on administrative roles and helped to expand football in Egypt. He was also a law student, and later served as Secretary General of the Egyptian Olympic Committee, leaving a lasting legacy in Egyptian sport. Inside forward, Mustafa Taha. Another forward who had contributed to Egypt's qualifying campaign for the tournament, Mustafa Taha scored 2 goals in the first leg win over Palestine, and was selected to start against Hungary. His club career saw him controversially represent both Cairo clubs, Zamalek and their arch-rivals Al-Ahly, something rarely done. Somewhat unsurprisingly, he's the second highest scorer in the history of the Cairo derby, at Zamalek's highest, having scored prolifically throughout his career. At international level, he also represented Egypt in the 1936 Olympics, and remained part of the national team until the Second World War, eventually retiring at the end of the war, whilst still playing for Zamalek. Outside forward, Mohammed Hassan. On the left wing was loyal one-club man for Port Said-based Al-Masry, Mohammed Hassan Moussa. For his club, he guided them to the Sultan Hussein Cup 3 times. Another Olympian player, he was selected for the 1928 squad but didn't make it onto the pitch. He spent pretty much his whole life in Port Said, where he learnt to play football on a British Army camp, and would work his whole life there as a civil servant outside football. Moussa is one of the lesser documented players in this team, and is often erroneously confused for Mohammed Hassan Helmi, despite Helmi being a famous Egyptian player in his own right. So who was the man in charge of this team? The Egypt head coach was Scotsman James McCrae. As a player, he'd played in both the Scottish and English leagues, notably with Clyde in Scotland and West Ham in England, where he played in the Hammers' first ever Football League match. He was a journeyman in the club game who saw his career disrupted by the First World War, and he also had a pretty jet-set managerial career too. Whilst in charge of the Egypt national team, he recommended 2 of his star players move to Scotland for their education, a trend that would continue in a career that took him from Scotland to Egypt, Turkey and Iceland. He'd enjoy the most success in Iceland, where he'd win back-to-back league titles with Fram in 1946 and 1947. His spell with Egypt lasted only 2 years, but they were certainly impactful. While Egypt's World Cup debut wasn't a resounding success in terms of results, they did give the European giants of Hungary a massive scare. They also captured the hearts of the watching crowd, who loudly booed Hungary's brutal 4th goal and erupted when they thought Egypt had taken the lead. Yes, Hungary were a brilliant side, but even if Egypt outplayed them from the first whistle, they were realistically never going to get far. In a tournament dogged by fascist propaganda, racism and controversy, only one team was ever going to win this World Cup. It was Italy, in case you didn't know. The Egypt game was another glimpse at just how biased the refereeing was going to be in favour of the European teams, as Brazil also found out to their cost. Nonetheless, Africa and the Arab world's World Cup journey was underway thanks to Egypt's pioneers. If you want more stories about the forgotten figures who helped to shape football, subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone else you'll think will enjoy it. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again very soon. Why not watch my video on Asia's World Cup debut next?